Hello, everyone. Part two. You made it. Keep watching the parts. You got to watch the parts 2 and 3. You'll get a lot more out of these videos if you watch each part in the same order, 1, 2, and 3. I try to explain everything I'm doing in really fine detail. So welcome back again, everybody. And let's get right into the painting here. Okay, we have our contour drawing complete and we're going in with our paint. And I mixed up on my palette some ivory black, some Payne's gray, some burnt umber, and some French ultramarine blue. So I'm kind of making my black a mixture of all those colors, those 4 colors. Again, ivory black, Payne's gray, burnt umber, and French ultramarine blue. This way it doesn't get too dense, the darks here on this roof of the lighthouse, of the actual light. And I leave a couple spots there for lighting effect. The light's coming from the left side of the page here above in the sky. The sunlight's coming from this side. So the left side of the lighthouse, as well as all of the buildings, are going to have more light on the left side. Stronger light, I should say. Okay, so now we're doing the painting underneath the light itself, the base for the light. And I mix up again some different colors in there, not just straight black. I try to mix different color variations to keep that black a little more interesting. The point being, if we were just to use, let's say, ivory black, it wouldn't look as interesting. So having a little bit of different colors mixed in with the black makes a nice modulation of color, color change, and makes it look a lot more interesting. And we're doing the shadowing underneath the platform of the walkway on top of the lighthouse. Now we're doing the inside of the cone-shaped top of the lighthouse. So that's a lighter value, a lighter tonal value underneath. So I'm just adding more water basically with a little bit of cerulean blue. And that's the opposite side of the railings. So I carefully looked at the photograph and I noticed that you can see the opposite side of the railings circling around the other side. So that's the angle going the other way. And now we're just doing the windows. We noticed in the photograph that the windows were quite dark in tonal value, very dark actually. So here I'm using a mixture of the black again, the ivory black, Payne's gray, and then I'm adding in some cerulean blue and raw sienna to give it a little bit of a warmer feel. And a little more water and less paint here to give us just a little bit of a lighter feel here than this darker section up here. You'll notice in the photograph this area and this area of the lighthouse is really like a pure black paint that's on the lighthouse, the top sections of the lighthouse. The windows are the framing of the windows are black, but not as dark as the top of the lighthouse. So we're trying to capture that by mixing in a little bit of the raw sienna and some cerulean blue and a little more water and not as much paint. So that's a little bit of a lighter value. And we're just going under the windows, the shadow underneath the window sills. and the top window there. So essentially here I'm blocking in my darkest darks in the painting. Some of you might be comfortable doing the lights first. That's fine too. So this painting can be done all of the lighter tonal values in paint first. Lighter can be done first, and then you could leave the darker tonal values like the lighthouse and the windows and some of the trim. You could leave that till later and block that in with darker color if you'd like. I tend to like to use the darker sections first. I like to put those in first, and then it kind of just helps me to see the rest of the values in the painting, the tonal values, the light and dark of the overall look of the painting. It seems to be a little easier with the darks on first. And we're doing the aluminum roof. It's a steel or aluminum roof. It's got like a nice brownish red color to it. And there I'm using burnt sienna, some raw sienna, some burnt umber, and some light red. Actually, the majority of the color is actually light red on this section here, the roofs, the metal roofs. And then here, when it's a larger section, I'll tend to pick up the pace a little bit. If I see I'm starting to have larger areas that need to be covered, I'll start to go a little quicker. Here I'm trying to capture that shadow that the lighthouse is casting on that rooftop. I think I had a little bit of trouble with this in this painting. I tried to keep those two sections of paint there separated, but they kind of mingled. I think with watercolors, you might find this true, that occasionally you'll have little trouble spots here and there as you paint, and you can dab up some paint if you feel something's getting out of control with some tissue. So I could have dabbed this section here with some tissue if I didn't like how it was going, but I kind of just kept going. If this was a finished painting, I might have I probably would have blotted that up maybe, because I started to see that it started to blossom a little bit over here. But anyway, we're moving on. We're putting some green into that roof. We're going to have some green bushes over here and weeds and little trees and shrubs and things. So I'm splashing on some paint there to give it that feel of foliage. And do a little tap with the finger a little bit too. We can do that. And we're just cruising along here, putting in our shrubs and bushes along this right side over here. And I'm mixing all kinds of different colors with the greens, sap green, a little bit of a cobalt blue, a little bit of burnt umber. I think there's a little bit of cerulean in there, cerulean blue, raw sienna. And we're putting in some cobalt blue there, some cerulean blue mixed. Cooler areas of the weeds in the bushes. And I have some cadmium yellow light, or cadmium lemon yellow, for the brighter colors up top. We're thinking that the light's coming from the top, so the lighter colors of the bushes would be more yellow and brighter colors, and then down by the ground area you might have a little bit of blue mixed in there, so that's why we put the blue in toward the bottom of the bushes, maybe a little more bluer, cooler, shadowy colors in that area. Here we have the lawn, there's some grass, so we're doing some nice bright raw sienna, and some green mixed in there, some sap green, maybe a little bit of olive green. I went to a bigger brush. And then here, more sap green and a little bit of raw sienna mixed in there, and a little bit of cerulean blue. And now we're blotting up a little bit of paint with the tissue. So that's always good to have a tissue nearby. If you find paint starts to run into sections you don't want, grab the tissue quick and just blot it out a little bit. And now we're going to put a little bit of paint in the, that's really the interior of the building there. So that would be, in the photograph, it was definitely a shadowy color under there, more darker. So I'm making sure I go plenty of paint and water in there to darken that up to make it a shadowy color inside the building there. It's like almost like a foyer area. And we'll do some sky colors here. I like to just put in my sky and start from the top and work on my way down. Here's where we have to be careful. I think my paint got a little bit out of control up there too on the top of the lighthouse. So I probably should have went with a little bit lighter application of paint on the top by this lighthouse, because it did blossom a little bit and get out of control. But I let it go, and I came back and let it dry, and then came back later and touched it up a little bit. So you can see how this is a little bit starting to run and blossom and balloon and cauliflower. There's different names for that when the paint starts to bleed out and sort of lose control. But in any case, I let it just go. This is a tutorial, so it's not like a finished painting. If this was a finished painting and that happened, I probably would have took a tissue and blotted that out really fast maybe. But actually, I can't necessarily say that, because sometimes if you let this go, like this section here, you'll notice that when it dries, it looks okay. It looks more drastic when it's wet, but something like this, once it dries, can be acceptable. As well, watercolors are beautiful with the water and the way it flows on the paper. So sometimes a little bit of water running here and there is sometimes a positive thing, because that is the nature of watercolor, and it has a charm of its own. So here we are, we're doing the shadowing underneath the eaves of this roof section here, and we did the shadowing under this eave of this roof here, and some shadowing underneath the gable end of this roof. And we're going to finish up and do some finishing touches in part 3. We'll see you in a few minutes.